Teach my daughter to dance, the rancher asked. The curvy woman who was never asked to dance said yes. The girls in the school hallway started laughing before Eliza even reached them. Careful, Margaret Collins said loudly. The floor might collapse. More laughter. Eliza kept walking, staring at the ground like she hadn't heard. Someone stuck out a foot. She didn't see it. Her shoe caught. She fell hard, books sliding across the wooden floor. The hallway exploded with laughter. Did the ground break? Margaret called after her. Eliza slowly gathered her books, cheeks burning, pretending none of it mattered. 2 hours later, Victor Hartley stood in the boarding house parlor with his hat in his hands, looking at the woman every other instructor in town had sent him away from. Please, he said. I'm begging you. Abigail looked up from her sewing. The rancher, tall, desperate, clearly at the end of options, was speaking to her. Not to the women whispering in the corner. Sir, I already told you. My daughter needs a dance teacher. His voice was tight, strained. The Harvest Ball competition is in 6 weeks. There's a scholarship, finishing school back east. It's her only chance at a real future. I'm sure Mrs. Patterson or Mrs. Aldridge would be happy to. They refused. All of them. He met her eyes. Every woman in this town said no. Abigail set down her needle slowly. Why would they refuse? Victor's jaw tightened. Because I foreclosed on the Patterson farm 2 years ago. Because the mayor blames me for his son's failed investment. Because this town holds grudges. He paused. And because my daughter, they say she's too big to dance. The words hit Abigail like a physical blow. Too big to dance. She'd heard those exact words before. 10 years ago. Right before she fell on stage and the whole town laughed. I know who you were, Victor continued quietly. I know you were the best dancer at your debut. I know what happened after. And I know what I'm asking. His voice broke slightly. But my daughter is being destroyed by the same cruelty you faced. And I don't know how to save her. From the corner of the room, Mrs. Patterson's voice carried, asking her? The girl who fell flat on her face? What could she possibly teach anyone? Soft laughter rippled through the boarding house. Abigail's face burned. Her hands stilled on the fabric. Victor turned toward the women, his voice cold and sharp. The girl who fell was sabotaged by someone who couldn't beat her fairly. And the woman sitting here now has more grace in one finger than this entire room combined. Silence. He turned back to Abigail. I'm not asking you to compete. I'm asking you to give my daughter what this town took from you. A chance. Abigail looked at him. At the desperation in his eyes. At the father who would stand in a room full of gossips and defend a woman he barely knew. Then she thought about a 10-year-old girl being told she was too big. Being denied a future because of how she looked. She thought about herself at 14. Before the fall. When she still believed she could fly. I'll teach her, Abigail said. Victor exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. Thank you. I'll pay whatever you. I don't want payment. Abigail stood, meeting his eyes. I just want her to have the chance I never got. Behind them, the women whispered. Shocked. Scandalized. But Abigail didn't hear them anymore. She was already thinking about the girl who needed saving. The girl who was exactly like her. 2 days later, Victor brought Eliza to the boarding house for the first lesson. The girl was small. Round in the way children sometimes are before they grow tall. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor like she was trying to become invisible. Eliza, this is Miss Abigail. She's going to teach you to dance. Eliza didn't look up. Victor knelt beside his daughter. I'll be back in an hour. Abigail recognized her posture. She'd worn it herself for years. Hello, Eliza. The girl looked up briefly. Looked away. Your father says you want to learn to dance. I have to learn. Eliza's voice was barely a whisper. For the scholarship. Do you want to learn? Eliza was quiet for a long moment. Everyone says I shouldn't try. Everyone said that about me too. Eliza's eyes flicked up, meeting Abigail's for the first time. Did you listen? For too long. Abigail knelt down to Eliza's level. But I'm not listening anymore. And neither are you. She stood and extended her hand. Dance with me. Eliza shook her head, shrinking back. I can't. I'll fall, I'll mess up. You'll learn. Abigail's voice was firm but gentle. One step at a time. That's all dancing is. One step, then another, until you're flying. Eliza looked at Abigail's hand, hesitated, then slowly, carefully took it. The music Abigail hummed was simple. The steps she taught were basic. But when Eliza moved, clumsy, uncertain, afraid, something shifted in the air. She wasn't graceful yet, but she was trying. And trying was everything. After the lesson, Victor waited outside. How was she? Scared, Abigail said honestly. But brave. She'll need more than twice a week though. The competition is close. Victor nodded. Come to the ranch. Teach her every day. I'll pay you double what you make here. Abigail hesitated. Sir, people will talk. Let them talk. My daughter's future matters more than their gossip. She looked at him. At the determination in his face. At the father who would risk scandal to save his child. I'll come, she said. 3 days later, Abigail moved to the Hartley Ranch. The room Victor showed her was small but private, tucked at the back of the house near the kitchen, a separate space with a lock and a window that looked out over the garden. It was my sister's, Victor said, before she married and moved east. It's yours now. Abigail set down her single bag. Thank you. Eliza's at school until 3. You can settle in. Dinner's at 6. He left before she could respond. Abigail stood in the quiet room and thought about what she'd just agreed to. 6 weeks. Living on a ranch with a widower and his daughter. Teaching a 10-year-old girl to dance when the whole town said she shouldn't. It was reckless. Improper. Exactly the kind of thing that would fuel gossip for months. But when she thought about Eliza's frightened eyes, about the way the girl had shrunk into herself like she was apologizing for existing, she unpacked her bag and didn't look back. That evening, Eliza came home from school silent. Too silent. She sat at dinner and pushed food around her plate and didn't meet anyone's eyes. Victor noticed. Eliza, what happened? Nothing. Eliza. The girl's face crumpled. They said I shouldn't bother. That girls like me don't dance. We just embarrass everyone. Victor's jaw tightened. Who said that? Everyone. Eliza's voice broke. Sarah Patterson. Margaret Aldrich. Even the teacher. She said maybe I should focus on other skills. More suitable skills. Abigail set down her fork carefully. What did you say? Nothing. I just sat there. Eliza wiped her eyes. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should give up. No. Both Eliza and Victor looked at Abigail. She stood. Come with me. She led Eliza outside to the wide porch. The evening air was cool, the sky just beginning to darken. Dance, Abigail said. Right here. Right now. But dance. Show me what we learned yesterday. Eliza, crying, started to move. Shaky at first. Uncertain. But then the rhythm found her and she smoothed out, her small body moving with surprising grace. When she finished, Abigail asked quietly, Did the ground break? Eliza shook her head. Did I laugh? No. Then they're liars. And you don't have to believe liars. Eliza looked at her, tears still streaming, but something new in her eyes. Something like hope. Victor stood in the doorway watching. Watching this woman teach his daughter that cruel words weren't truth. That trying was braver than hiding. Watching her give Eliza what he didn't know how to give. Belief. That night, after Eliza had gone to bed, Victor found Abigail on the porch. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing her. Really seeing her. Not what the town says she is. What she actually is. Abigail looked out at the dark ranch. I see her because I was her. And no one saw me. Victor was quiet for a moment. I see you. She looked at him, surprised. I see you, he said again. And I'm grateful you're here. He walked back inside before she could respond. Abigail sat alone in the dark, feeling something shift inside her chest. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. The days fell into rhythm. Mornings, Abigail sewed in her room, taking in orders from town, mending work she could do with her hands while her mind planned the day's lessons. Afternoons, when Eliza came home from school, they danced. At first, Eliza was stiff, apologetic. She flinched when she made mistakes, like she expected to be hit. You're allowed to mess up, Abigail told her. That's how you learn. But what if I mess up at the competition? Then you keep going. The worst thing you can do is stop. Slowly, Eliza started to trust. Trust the steps. Trust Abigail. After their first successful practice, they sat on the porch steps eating peaches, laughing about Eliza nearly spinning into the fence. But school was getting worse. Every day, Eliza came home with new wounds. One day, she arrived with dirt on her dress. Margaret pushed me. Said I was taking up too much space in the hallway. Victor had tried once. The teacher said children could be cruel, but nothing could be proven. Another day, she was silent for hours. Finally she whispered, Sarah said my mother died because of me. That I made her sick, that worrying about me is what killed her. Victor, overhearing, went white. That's not Eliza. That's not true. But Eliza had already fled to her room. Abigail found her there, curled on her bed, face buried in her pillow. Can I sit? Eliza nodded without looking up. Abigail sat on the edge of the bed. When I was your age, a girl named Catherine told me I'd never be a dancer. She said my body was wrong. That I'd embarrass myself if I tried. Eliza looked up slightly. And then at my debut, she tripped me. On purpose. Made me fall in front of everyone so she could prove she was right. What did you do? I gave up. I let her win. I stopped dancing for 10 years because I believed what she said about me. Eliza was quiet. But I was wrong, Abigail continued. Because cruel people don't get to decide what you're capable of. Only you do. I'm scared, Eliza whispered. I know. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you try anyway. Eliza sat up slowly. Will you help me? Every single day. That evening, Victor found Abigail in the garden. She was pulling weeds from the beds near the house, humming softly. You don't have to do that. She looked up. The garden looked forgotten. Just dead things and dry dirt. My wife planted those, Victor said quietly. 2 years ago. Right before. Eliza told me. He sat on the porch step watching Abigail work. She's talking about her mother again. She hasn't done that in over a year. That's good. It's because of you. Abigail shook her head. It's because she's ready. No. Victor studied the rows of soil. It's because you made this place feel less heavy. He glanced at her. She trusts you. Somehow she knows she can speak around you. I didn't do anything special. I just listened. Sometimes that's the hardest thing. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set. Then Victor said quietly, I let this house go silent. Abigail looked up. After Nora died, every room reminded me of her. The laugh, the music, the way she filled the place with life. He rubbed a hand over his face. So I buried myself in work and stopped noticing the quiet. He looked toward the house. And Eliza learned to live inside that quiet with me. You didn't mean for that to happen. No. But meaning doesn't change what a child feels. Abigail stood, brushing dirt from her hands. You're here now. That counts. Victor gave a small breath of a laugh. Only because you reminded me the world didn't end with Nora. Abigail softened. You love her. That's what matters. Is it enough? It's everything. Victor looked at her for a long moment. At this woman who'd walked into his broken house and started putting pieces back together without being asked. "Stay for dinner," he said. "I always stay for dinner. I mean after. Stay after. Talk with me." Abigail's breath caught. "Victor. Please. I've been alone for 2 years. And for the first time since Nora died, I don't want to be." She should say no. Should keep distance. Should remember this was just a job, just 6 weeks, just teaching a little girl to dance. But when she looked at him, at the loneliness in his eyes that matched her own. "All right," she said. "I'll stay." That night, after Eliza went to bed, they sat on the porch. Victor told her about Nora, about how they'd met, how she'd loved the ranch, how she'd dreamed of the orchard growing bigger every spring, and how the house had never sounded the same after she was gone. Abigail told him about her debut, about Catherine, about the fall and the laughter and the 10 years she'd spent believing she wasn't worthy of trying again. They talked until the stars came out. And the quiet between them changed. Not awkward anymore, not guarded. Just two people sitting on the same porch, sharing truths they rarely said out loud. A quiet closeness neither had expected. The first hint that the loneliness they both carried might not have to stay forever. The next week, Abigail noticed something. Victor worked differently, hammering fence posts too fast, rushing every task, shoulders tight. One afternoon she watched him wrestle with a broken wagon wheel, frustration growing with every strike. "You're going too fast," she called from the porch. He looked up. "What?" "Your rhythm. Let the wood settle between strikes." "How do you?" She clapped a steady beat. "Slow. Even. Like this." Victor tried again. The wood shifted into place. What had taken 20 minutes finished in 2. He stared at her. "How did you know that? Everything has rhythm. Building. Dancing. Breathing. You just have to listen." After that, it became their thing. She'd hear him working and call out the rhythm. He'd adjust. Jobs finished faster. Eliza noticed first. "Papa's happier now." "Is he?" "He hums when he works. He never used to." Abigail smiled. Maybe he just found the beat. One evening, Eliza refused to practice. "I can't do it," she muttered, arms folded. "I'll just look stupid." Abigail glanced at Victor. Then she stood and held out her hand to him. "Dance with me." Victor blinked. "What?" "Just try." They moved into the barn where there was space. Victor was terrible. 2 left feet, no sense of timing, nearly tripping over his own boots. Eliza watched from the doorway. Victor spun the wrong direction and almost collided with a hay bale. Eliza snorted. Abigail kept going. "Step here." "No, your other foot." Victor tried again and stepped directly on her toe. Eliza burst out laughing. "There it is," Abigail said quietly. Victor bowed dramatically to his daughter. "Your father, the finest dancer in the territory." Eliza giggled. "Papa, you're awful." "Then you should help me," he said, "before I embarrass the whole ranch." Eliza hesitated. Then she stepped forward. Abigail guided them both through the steps, slow, patient, again and again. By the time the lanterns were lit, Eliza was moving with confidence. She spun once without stumbling and beamed. "I did it." "You did," Abigail said. For the first time in weeks, the barn was full of laughter. Then Victor noticed movement at the door. A ranch hand watching. He slipped away quickly, but the damage was done. By morning, the whole town knew. The widower and the seamstress, dancing together in the barn after dark. The gossip spread like fire. And with it came consequences neither of them had expected. The gossip reached the school first. Eliza came home on Monday silent. Not the frightened silence of before. Something harder. More fragile. She went straight to her room and didn't come out. Abigail found her there an hour later, sitting on her bed, staring at nothing. "Eliza!" "Sarah said you're a bad woman." Eliza's voice was flat. "Empty." She said you're trying to trap my father. That you're living here improperly. That everyone knows what kind of woman does that. Abigail's stomach dropped. She said if I keep learning from you, I'll become bad too. That the judges won't let me compete if I'm being taught by someone like you. Eliza. Are you bad? Eliza looked up, eyes red. Are you trying to trap Papa? No. I'm here to teach you to dance. That's all. Then why is everyone saying those things? Because some people like stories better than the truth. Eliza was quiet for a moment. I don't think you're bad. Thank you. But I'm scared. What if they don't let me compete? What if they take away the scholarship because of you? Abigail sat beside her. Then we'll fight them. Together. But the next day, the women's committee came. Mrs. Patterson, Mrs. Aldridge, and 3 others. Standing on Victor's porch with righteous fury in their eyes. Mr. Hartley, we need to speak with you about the situation. What situation? The woman living in your house. Unmarried. Teaching your daughter while engaging in improper activities. Victor's jaw tightened. Abigail is teaching Eliza to dance. Nothing more. You were seen dancing with her. Alone. In your barn. After dark. I was learning the steps to help my daughter practice. That's not what it looked like. Mrs. Patterson's voice was sharp. And the community is concerned. About your daughter's moral development. About the example being set. The example being set is that my daughter can learn from someone who actually cares about her. Which is more than any of you have done. Mrs. Aldridge stepped forward. We're not here to argue. We're here to inform you. If Miss Abigail doesn't leave your property, we'll petition the competition organizers to disqualify Eliza on moral grounds. Silence. You can't do that, Victor said, but his voice was uncertain. We can. And we will. Your daughter's chance at that scholarship depends on her having a clean reputation. And as long as that woman is living under your roof, her reputation is compromised. They left. Victor stood on the porch, fists clenched, watching them go. Inside, Abigail had heard everything. She found Victor in the barn an hour later. I'm leaving. He looked up, stricken. No. They'll destroy her chance if I stay. You heard them. We'll fight them. And we'll lose. You know we will. Abigail's voice was steady even as her heart shattered. Eliza deserves that scholarship. I won't let my presence cost her the future she's worked for. Eliza needs you. She needs the competition more. And she's ready. I've taught her everything she needs. Abigail. This is the right thing to do. You know it is. Victor looked at her, at this woman who'd brought light back into his house, who'd taught his daughter to be brave, who'd made him remember what it felt like to be alive. I don't want you to go. I know. Abigail's voice broke. But I have to. She left that afternoon. Packed her single bag. Walked away from the only place she'd felt at home in 10 years. Back to the boarding house. Back to her sewing. Back to being invisible. But she'd left something behind. A dress. She'd been sewing it in secret for weeks. For Eliza. For the competition. Made from fabric she'd bought with her own saved money. Stitched with every bit of skill she had. Elegant. Beautiful. Made to move like water. She left it on Eliza's bed with a note. You're ready. Dance like you're made of air. I'll be watching. Abigail. Eliza found it that evening. Held the dress and cried. Victor found her there, holding the dress, tears streaming. She left, Eliza sobbed. She left and the competition is in 3 days and I can't do this without her. Victor held his daughter. His own throat tight. Yes, you can. She made sure of it. But that night, alone in his room, Victor made a decision. He wouldn't let Abigail sacrifice herself for nothing. He wouldn't let fear win. The next day he rode into town. Found the boarding house. Found Abigail in the hallway. Come home, he said. Eliza needs you. We are incomplete without you. Abigail shook her head. I've done what I came to do. I taught her. My job is finished. It isn't enough, Victor said, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away, terrified of the consequences. I belong in the shadows, Victor. It's safer this way. For you, for Eliza. It's not safer. It's just lonely. It's what I know. She looked at him once, eyes filled with pain, then turned and closed her door. He stood in the hallway a long time before walking back into the night. The harvest ball was packed. The whole town came. Families crowded into the hall. 12 girls registered to compete. Eliza Hartley was the youngest. Backstage, Eliza stood in the dress Abigail had made, hands shaking. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Victor knelt beside her. You've practiced every day for 6 weeks. You know every step. But Abigail taught you everything you need. She believed in you. Now you have to believe in yourself. Eliza looked at him with terrified eyes. What if I fall? Then you get back up. And you finish. Because finishing is winning. The first girls performed. Polished. Perfect. Their mothers had hired expensive teachers. They moved with confidence born from privilege. Then Eliza's name was called. She stepped onto the stage in Abigail's dress, small and round and trembling. The whispers came before she'd taken 2 steps. Hartley's daughter. Too big to dance. In the front row, Margaret Collins turned to the woman beside her and smiled the way cats do before something small stops moving. She won't last a minute, she said, just loud enough. At the back of the hall, Abigail stood with her shoulder blades pressed flat against the wall. She told herself she wouldn't come, that keeping her distance was the sensible thing, the careful thing. But she couldn't leave Eliza to walk into this alone. So she'd come in through the side door and stayed where the lamplight didn't find her. The music started. Eliza's first step was cautious. She looked small against all those watching eyes, all those waiting faces. Then something changed in her. She closed her eyes for one breath, just one, and when she opened them, the girl who had cried in the barn was gone. She moved like something that had been held back too long. Not flawlessly. Her foot nearly slipped at the second turn, but she caught herself and kept going, and the catching was as beautiful as anything else. Every step Abigail had drilled into her, every afternoon they'd refused to quit, every moment Eliza had wanted to stop and hadn't, it all came out of her at once. No hesitation. No apology. Just a 10-year-old girl dancing like the stage had been built for her and no one else. The room went quiet first. Then it broke open. The judges were on their feet. The applause came in a wave that filled the rafters. Margaret's smile had gone somewhere she couldn't get it back from. In the back, Abigail pressed her knuckles to her mouth. She'd done it. Eliza had done it. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer called over the noise, our winner, Eliza Hartley. More cheering. Eliza stood center stage, breathing hard, searching the crowd until she found her father. Victor was standing, something undone in his face that Abigail had never seen before. The announcer offered Eliza the scholarship certificate. Eliza stepped to the edge of the stage and raised her voice so the back of the hall could hear. I want to thank my teacher, Abigail. Her voice was small at first, then steadied, the way a candle does once it catches. Everyone said I couldn't dance. They said we were both too big. But she stayed. She believed in me when the door was closed in her face. She looked out past the lights. Abigail, if you're here, please come up. Silence settled over the hall. Then Victor rose from his seat. Abigail. His voice was quiet but it carried. Come forward. All eyes turned, searching. Abigail went still as stopped breath. Every muscle told her to slip out the side door. To disappear the way she always had, back into the margins where she'd learned to live. But then she looked at Eliza, 10 years old, standing under every light in the room, waiting. If Eliza could walk into the fire, so could she. Abigail moved. The crowd murmured. She felt their eyes like weather, some cold, some uncertain, some turning away entirely. Every unkind word she'd ever absorbed rose in her chest like smoke. She kept walking. She reached the stage. Eliza took her hand and pulled. You came. I never left, Abigail said. Victor stepped up beside them. His voice was enough. This woman taught my daughter to dance when every chair in this room was turned away from her. She gave Eliza the one thing none of you offered, a chance. He paused, and when he continued his voice was quieter, which made it harder. You didn't close that door because you were protecting anyone. You closed it because if she succeeded, you'd have to reconsider what you'd decided about her. And she did succeed. You were wrong about her. And you were wrong about my daughter. Then Victor turned to Abigail. Dance with me. Let them see what I see. Victor. Please. The organizer caught the moment and nodded to the musicians. A waltz, slow and deliberate, came from the back of the hall. Victor held out his hand. Abigail looked at it, at the hand of a man who had stood in front of her when everyone else stepped back. Who had looked at her without any of the flinching she'd come to expect. Who was asking her, in front of every person who had ever made her feel like she took up too much room, to take up exactly the space she deserved. She took his hand. And Abigail, who hadn't danced in 10 years, who'd been told she was too much, who'd fallen and been laughed at and quietly put herself away, danced. Perfectly, gracefully, beautifully. The room watched without a sound. Some with shame they hadn't expected to feel. Some with something cracking open in them. Some still holding their old opinions like shields, unwilling to set them down. But Abigail didn't see any of it. She only saw Victor. And he only saw her. When the music faded, they stood together, breathing. Victor spoke loud enough for the room to hear. I'm asking you to marry me. He didn't frame it as a question. Not for appearances. Not for the town. Because I love you. Because you gave my daughter herself back. Because you showed me a person can find their way home after they've lost it. He waited. Abigail's tears fell without apology. Yes. The hall divided, some clapping, some pushing toward the exits, some sitting very still in the way people do when something has unsettled a belief they thought was permanent. Eliza ran to them both and buried her face between them, her arms locked tight like she was afraid one might disappear. Nobody moved to pull away. Later, outside, the noise behind them, the three of them stood in the cool night air. You danced, Eliza said softly. You finally danced. We both did, Abigail said. Together. Victor drew them both close. And for the first time in longer than she could name, Abigail didn't feel like she was standing at the edge of something, waiting to be told she didn't belong. She was already inside it. The wedding was small. A few families who'd decided love mattered more than gossip. Most of the town stayed away. Abigail didn't mind. She was marrying the man she loved and becoming mother to the girl who had saved her as much as she'd saved Eliza. Eliza grew up dancing. Not on stages. In the barn, on the porch, in the fields between chores. Abigail taught her every dance she knew. Victor learned to hear the rhythm in the work. In building, in ranching, in living. And sometimes, late at night when Eliza was asleep, he and Abigail danced in the kitchen. Poorly. Laughing. Stepping on each other's toes. Perfect. Years later, when Eliza was grown, she came to Abigail one evening and sat beside her on the porch steps. Do you know what I remember most? She said. Not the competition. Not even winning. She leaned her head against Abigail's shoulder the way she had since she was 10. I used to think I was a burden, Eliza said. Too big. Too clumsy. Taking up space. Abigail's throat tightened. And then you came. And you were all those things they said I was. And you were magnificent. Eliza's eyes filled. You didn't teach me to dance. You taught me that the world was wrong about us.